bag home here, and it's that time for another edition of Jason and the Gentleman. And as always, joining me is the gentleman of mixed martial arts and Bellator Bantamweight, the gentleman, Josh Hill. Josh, how are you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Just hanging out, it's January. It's cold here. And there's not really much happening. So I look forward to these podcasts now more than ever.
Well, that excites me, but as we were just talking off air, I mean, Bellator, they're pumping your name out there as potentially getting the next shot at Juan Archuleta in the bantamweight title. That's gotta feel good, and I see you're trending well on their social media platforms.
Yeah, I thought that Archuleta Pettis was already kind of a done deal, and that's who was fighting for the belt, and that's why I wanted a number one contender fight, but I guess it's not for sure thing. So yeah, man, of course I want that title shot. So if I can get in there and get that, that'd be great. If not, like I said, give me that number one contender fight. But yeah, they had me, Pettis, and Stotts up there and then a mystery, like who else should it be? So, I mean, like I said, that division's stacked. So no matter who fights who in that top 10, it's going to be they're killer fights, man.
Yeah, I mean, that, as we've talked about many times on this show, how deep bantamweight is, not just in Bellator, but all throughout mixed martial arts. But yeah, I mean, it's nice to see that they threw you in there promotionally as well, because some these Canadian guys, they don't get a lot of publicity, but they obviously see the value in you to even put you in the mix there for getting a title shot.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's cool. I mean, I'm happy. I know that out of us three that they mentioned, Pettis is 2-0 in Bellator. I'm 2-0 in Bellator, and Stotts is now, I think, 3-0 in Bellator. So we've all been perfect under the promotion. So I think it makes sense for sure.
Yeah, I think we'll all be excited, and hopefully by February, Bellator gets their shows up and running, and that we can get something, because Bellator's been pretty quiet here early in 2021 and kind of losing some of that momentum that they built up. But once they get these shows going, they'll be back in with the talk with a lot of the great fights that they have lined up. But speaking of great fights, Josh, I mean, there's a lot of fights that have happened from Saturday to this upcoming Saturday, and let's take a look at last Saturday, where we previewed the UFC on ABC's debut. First of all, what did you think of it? I mean, I don't know. I know ABC isn't a big player up here in Canada, but what did you think of like the presentation that ABC brought to the table with like old Wild Words of Sports clips and some old clips of Muhammad Ali? Like, I thought they were trying to do a good job of connecting the past with the present.
To be honest, I didn't really pay attention. I just went, like, I watch a fight, and then I'll be doing something, come right back, watch the fight, so I didn't really focus in a lot of the production side of it. But I mean, to me, that's just a bonus. I mean, the ABC's been around for a long time, and they used to have a lot of combat sports on there, but it's been a while. But yeah, I mean, to me, that's just kind of a bonus. I don't really care.
Oh, well, all right. Well, there goes that question. But yeah, I thought it was a pretty decent job, because, like, as you said, they had combat sports and boxing on that network for eons ago, and a lot of people got into combat sports through the free capability and whatnot. But
I guess the biggest thing for me is the more eyes, the better. If it has more eyes on the sport, then that's the better, right? So if it brings more eyes, ABC and all the other sports networks, then perfect.
Yeah, and I think we're still waiting on a rating, because it was in the afternoon, but it was going up against an NFL game. But from the people I've talked to that are, they follow MMA and whatnot, but they felt that the UFC show was way more interesting than the Rams-Packer football game that was going on at the same time. So I think that's a
given, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you watched any of that game, it was interesting for maybe about 5 minutes before Green Bay did their thing. But yeah, let's look at this main event, Josh. Max Holloway, Calvin Kattar. I mean, we said Calvin Kattar, this is a big opportunity for him, and he showed his toughness in this fight. But Max Holloway had, if not the greatest performance inside a UFC octagon, landing like 444 strikes, a UFC record, breaking his old record of like over 200 strikes in a fight. I mean, Max Holloway easily cemented himself, maybe as the best featherweight alive, even though he isn't the UFC featherweight champion.
Yeah, this was one of those performances where it was just kind of like, he was in that state, that flow state, the zone, at another level, whatever you want to call it. And he was just, I don't think there's anybody beating him there that night. He was so on. And his ability to like I said, put so much pressure on people and not get tired. And his footwork, his combinations, his distance control, his angles, and his movement are top notch. But also his ability to just to roll with punches and even just take punches. Because sometimes, he's very good at rolling with punches. He gets hit a bit, but doesn't get the full force. But he did take a couple from Kattar that were full force shots that have knocked people out in the past. And his ability to take a hit and just not letting it bother him and not letting it hit him, not letting it change his game plan at all, and he still comes forward, is just second to none. So it was amazing to watch it. And then like as far as Kattar, I mean, most people would be out of there by then, and he was able to weather storms. Like I said, land big shots of his own too at times. But just there was nothing that was putting Max Holloway back, and credit to his toughness because he showed his heart for sure. But Max was on a different level, man.
Yeah, just flow. Like, what you like? Even in the end of the 5th round, like talking to the commentary team, like Calvin Kattar seemed like he made the mistake saying that Holloway wasn't, if it was high school, he would just be a freshman in terms of his striking, and that Kattar was a senior. It seemed to at least motivate Holloway to really show off his boxing. Like, would you say that Holloway has maybe the best MMA boxing in the sport?
I don't know. It's hard to say. But it's definitely up there for sure. And yeah, as far as that talk beforehand, I mean, everybody's going to say shit before a fight. It's just whether it's true or not, right? It's just to say things, maybe try to get in people's head or try to build yourself up with confidence. But it was unbelievable, man. It just, and then in the 5th round, I mean, he's already gone 20 minutes. He's taken his best shots. He knows he's not gonna put him out. He's already won the fight handily. So he just kind of, like I said, in the zone, having fun out there and just making it a show and just showing like how good he really is.
Yeah, he just an unbelievable performance. And like, I know there's not the award for performance of the year in MMA, and there maybe should be now after this, because a lot of people are saying fight of the year candidate already. It was really just a one-sided beating. So if you had to give a performance of the year, I would give it to Max. But what did you think about this fight? Because there was this article that came out from MMA Fighting about, Spencer Fisher this past week and, his struggles and, dealing with all this head trauma and whatnot. Did you think that this fight should have been stopped going from like the 3rd to the 5th round? Did you think it should have been stopped, Josh?
Personally, no, but that's the fighter talking to me, probably. I wouldn't want it stopped, and I'm sure Kattar didn't. So that, like I said, that's the fighter talking to me, but I can see from a different standpoint, people saying, you're not going to win this fight. You're already down so much on the scorecards. You're just going to continue to take punishment and then losing decision like you did. But it's like, but then you're also, I mean, he did land some big shots even in those later rounds, and one of those could end a fight, right? Like if you hit him right in the button and he's walking in or doesn't see it coming, that could be the fight finisher. So you'd hate to rob somebody of that opportunity. And they've shown each round that they have landed some stuff. Even though they're taking 95% of the beating. So it is a difficult decision. We worry. I mean, I worry for the future of my generation of fighters and a little bit before and behind me, because we don't really know exactly what the repercussions will be long term from doing what we do. You're seeing it in like football now, like from players 30 years ago that are having CTE issues and I'm sure there's going to be some no matter what in every contact sport. But we just that's why I'm trying not to get hit that much when I fight. Most of my damages come from training, and I guess that's most similar for most fighters. But it's like that area, man. It's like you want to be a fighter, and you kind of know the risks. And it's just that kind of like the juggle of like what's too much and what's not enough, and it's a tough topic, really.
Yeah, because like this wasn't like the Teixeira Anthony Smith fight where like Anthony Smith literally had his teeth knocked out of him through his mouth guard, like, and he was getting pummeled, and that fight should have been stopped because that was hard to watch. This one, like, I can see why people would say it should have been stopped, especially when you looked at Kattar's face. But as you said, Kattar was throwing. He was still showing signs that he was, intelligently defending himself, and still in the fight. So I don't feel like people should say that the fight should be stopped, because sometimes, they put all this pressure on officials that they stop fights too early and not give enough people enough chance. And I've seen Herb Dean take some criticism through Twitter, but I think Herb made the right decision, let the fight continue. And if anyone was going to stop the fight, it would be Calvin's corner. And I know Tyson Chattery has been getting some feedback negative-wise through his social media that not stopping it. But I think Kattar showed enough signs that he was still in the fight and that this fight should have gone the distance. And, sure, I mean, the scorecards for this fight are unbelievably lopsided. Like, I had it 50-43. I've seen some media members have it 50-41 and a 50-40, which is something like you never see for MMA. But, yeah, I think while head trauma and, too much damage is something that I'm happy we're having more of a discussion about, this wasn't the fight for me where I wanted to scream so much because the fight should have been stopped, because Kattar was still in it. And as you said, he could have landed one shot that just clipped Holloway and ended the fight in favor of Calvin Kattar.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I think it wasn't the fight. I mean, he ate a lot of punishment in this fight, but there's been fights before where I've seen the person, it wasn't even close. They weren't landing anything. They were in there just because they were tough and they have heart, and there was no way of them winning the fight. And those are the fights, I think, where it's like, okay, what's the risk here versus the reward? But really, we're not going to win this fight. And all we're going to show is that we're tough and we can take it and finish it. And that's when your corner should be like kind of the one that's, kind of thinking about that, think about continuing. I think there was one fight, I can't remember, it was a girl fight. It might have been Nunes and Pennington, that it, right?
Yeah.
Where they were talking about that in the corners. And did they finish that fight or did they stop it? I can't remember.
It went the distance, and she kind of said she wanted out of there, but her corner told her to stay in the fight.
Right. And there was a lot of controversy about that, because they knew that, everything was 3 or 4 rounds to nothing, whatever, and she wasn't going to win the fight. And it's not like she was really landing anything or getting really any offense going. So that's where I see the difference between the Kattar-Holloway fight. But it's a tough subject, man. It's a tricky one, and some people are going to disagree no matter what. But yeah, this was the fight that I think they made the right call.
It also happened last year with Max Roshkov, where he made his UFC debut at 5-0 and told his corner that he was done. And pretty much from that point on, like, he got cut from the UFC and is still trying to find his way back there. And like, there's also that side of it where, you take the fighter's word for it, it ends up damaging them. That's how promotions, I guess, will look at you, that you're a quitter, and it kind of may hurt. So there's always two sides of the coin, but I'm happy that like people are starting to get more in the fighter safety side of things. But this wasn't the fight to me where I thought things were getting too out of hand.
Yeah, I totally agree. Remember, we got to remember that this is fighting, right? Still, this is, this isn't really, I mean, I guess you can call it a sport, but it's not, you're not playing it, you're fighting, right? So this is a violent sport. I mean, it's art. It's a different type of art form, but it is violent. So we got to remember that's first and foremost. And then, obviously you got to, our fighter safety is key, but there got to be a balance there.
For sure. I mean, this card, I thought the main card was excellent. The prelims were kind of slow. Every prelim went to a decision. There were some good prelim fights, but like this main card was excellent. And then, the co-main event, the fight you said you were looking forward to the most, Matt Brown, Carlos Condit. I mean, how about Condit? He's still got a lot left in the tank, and apparently he's re-signed with the UFC, and maybe we'll give it another run for a chance there at the welterweight title.
Yeah, I was happy to see him win, man. He's probably one of my favorite fighters, to be honest, that's been around the game. And it's crazy to think he's only 36 years old or something. Like, I remember watching him before I started training. I guess, I don't know. It just seems like he's older than that. He should be anyway. But it was a good fight, back and forth, pretty evenly contested fight. Like, nobody really dominated anybody. I scored the fight 2-1 for Condit. And the judges were a little bit weird, but they got the right winner in my decision. But it was good. I was glad to see him get his hand raised again. And it'd be interesting what they do with him now. Do they continue to kind of give him guys like a Matt Brown that are kind of towards the end of their career, on the later half of it, or are they going to actually throw him in there with one of the the top guys in the division? So we'll see, or something in between, maybe. Who knows? But anyways, I'm happy to see him get the win.
Yeah, like let's talk. Like that judging was so bizarre. Like 30-27 across the board for Condit, and like Matt Brown went out in his Twitter and was like, "That's
Yeah.
absolutely outrageous." Like he at least won a round, and I had him winning. I actually scored him winning the fight. I had it 29-28
Really?
Brown,
Really?
but I thought it was a close enough fight where Brown did enough to win the fight. But 30-27 for anyone in that fight, I think, is a little out there. And I know judging's a thing, and I don't want to get too much into it, but like that's such a bad scorecard, right? Like Matt Brown at least one round on a scorecard, whether you had him winning the fight or not.
I thought so. Yeah, I scored at 29-28 for Condit. But yeah, these judges are all, I don't know, half of them don't know what the hell they're talking about. So, I mean, that's why it's so scary when you go to a judges, unless you like absolutely dominate the fight and start to finish and you know you got it, then it's, if you gave up a round, even if you know you gave up one round, then it's very scary going to the judges scorecard because you never know what they're looking at.
Unless you put up a Max Holloway performance where
Yes,
you're
exactly.
landing like 500 strikes in a fight where you know there's no way unless someone's just like listening to the fight or something. I don't know. But all in all, I thought this was a good card. But like the build up for this card was pretty much now centered around from Friday about Dana White's decision with Khabib. Like, what did you think about this? Like they treated it like a game show, but the announcement was, we'll wait and see. Pretty much just buy the pay-per-view and see what happens.
The announcement was nothing. It was nothing.
It
You know
was
what I
zero.
mean? So it was like, oh, we'll just see what happens with these guys, and then we'll decide after that. So there was really nothing. I think that's all it was. I mean, I still think that the UFC, obviously, Dana, they want it to be McGregor. You know what I mean? I think it's kind of weird because I've seen things saying like they're talking like they want McGregor to win or already is going to. So it's kind of like, in my mind, like a little disrespectful to Poirier, who's your interim champion, one of your best lightweights in the world, your other half of your main event. So I know that they want that rematch with Khabib McGregor because it will sell the most pay-per-views. It's a huge story behind it. After the first fight too, with the brawl, and so I understand what they want from it. But there's other possibilities too, right? So.
I just loved how they hyped this announcement up. Like everyone in MMA social media, MMA media, we all got worked, as they say in pro wrestling. As you said, the announcement was literally, we'll wait and see, buy the pay-per-view, see what happens. Like maybe Khabib will be interested in fighting, one of these four guys plus Charles Oliveira, like from the co-main to main event on at UFC 257.
To be honest, the only fight that gets me excited if Khabib comes back is if George came back.
And apparently Dana says they both want the fight, but they both seem like they want the fight. It's just Dana doesn't want to make that fight.
I don't understand why either, because I don't know if it maybe be at a catch weight or in between, maybe at 160 or 65. I don't know, because I don't know if George can make 55, to be honest. But that would be the fight that would be monumental, I think, for sure. Both are actually retired now. Again, if George comes back, he'd be two division champ, legend. One of the best ever against a guy that was a lightweight, one of the best lightweights ever, retired undefeated. Has a legacy behind him. So I think that would be the fight to make for me if Khabib was to come out of retirement.
Yeah, first of all, I don't think Khabib's coming out of retirement. Like the UFC's pushing this narrative that he is, but he seems so content. Like now running this Eagle Fighting Championship promotion, getting his gym and his guys ready, like the next generation of fighters. But the UFC's got this narrative that like Khabib isn't retired and he's interested in this other stuff. Like I don't think he truly is, unless like a massive payday would come at him, like you said with the McGregor fight. But I find that weird. But yeah, like Khabib seems like he does want the St. Pierre fight. So does George St. Pierre, but UFC's mindset is they both don't want the fight. So who knows? But that's I don't know. I just thought the whole handling of the announcement was like, wow, that was some good. They worked us pretty good for that. But so be it. That's good promotional tactics for buying the pay-per-view. It was a bigger audience, and you had more eyeballs potentially signing up for ESPN Plus on the stateside. But before we get to UFC 257, Josh, there is a card on Wednesday morning headlined by Neil Magny and Michael Chiesa. This is a fight that, came together because the Chimaev Edwards fell through for the second time. But this is a solid fight at welterweight, guys that are really, knocking on the doorstep of getting a shot at Kamaru Usman. And, Chiesa's found new life at 170. And Magny's always been such a durable guy at 170 pounds and is coming off the biggest name victory of his career with a domination of former welterweight champion Robbie Lawler. Like, how do you see this one going down?
Yeah, this is a good fight. It's two guys that are kind of like that, pretty decent, well-rounded guys everywhere. They're not like one of those they're not like these big explosive knockout artists, but they're just good everywhere. They're good strikers. Their wrestling's good and their grappling is really good. So yeah, they match up really well. So this one I think will be interesting. We'll see if it does go to the mat. Both guys are very capable there, but I think you're going to see Chiesa look to take it to the mat. And I think Magny is going to look to more so strike and keep him on his feet, stay on the outside, use his length. But yeah, this is an interesting fight. I like it. If I got to pick a winner, I'm going to go with Chiesa. I think by sub.
Okay, Chiesa. I think if anything, I'm going to go Magny by decision. Just his style. He just likes to grind people out and just take you the distance. And we haven't seen Chiesa go 5 rounds. Not saying that we have truly seen Magny make it the distance there, but he's been in some wars and fought some higher level guys up there at 170 pounds. So I'd lean Magny. And I mean, this card's kind of at such an awkward time. Like the prelims start 9 a.m. Eastern on a Wednesday. But I mean, there's some interesting debuts. I mean, Ricky Simone's fighting on this card. Manon Fiorot is the former UAE Warriors women's flyweight champion. She's making her debut. Mason Jones is making his debut. Dual champion for Cage Warriors. So
I trained with him a bit at Alpha Male. Yeah, he's a good fighter, man. He's a big signing for them for sure.
Yeah, I mean, this is, I think, a good card for some of these guys to get their feet wet in the UFC. They'll get a nice bit of eyeballs. I mean, more so probably on the European side just because of the times difference. Yeah. But I think this is a fun card. Like, I also think part of the reason it's so early is to go head-to-head with the inauguration because we know Dana's political beliefs and the inauguration's at 10 a.m. But, neither here nor there. But there are some good fights on this card, some good talent on this card as well. Like, for your Ultimate Fighter alum, Roxy Modafferi, is on this card. So she's on the 3rd fight on the main card. So
yeah, Roxanne's on there. That'd be good to see her get back in there. And also Tyson Nam's on there too, I believe.
Yeah, he is against Matt Schnell.
That's a good one. Tyson's a guy that I trained with before, and I've fought in the same organizations as him in Russia and with World Series, and he's now he's put together a nice little run. He's back. I think he's 2-0 in the UFC, so he's kind of peaking out at the right time here, and he's doing well.
Yeah, like the first fight, like I said, Manon Fiorot, she's a French girl, but every time I've seen her fight, like she just won the UAE Warriors women's flyweight championship, and like UAE Warriors has just been putting on, when they put on shows, they put on some great talent on there. Like Jesse Arnett just fought on there last Friday and got a big decision win. So, and a lot of guys are sticking around there from that card to hopefully get in last minute replacements on Fight Island shows. So UAE Warriors, they're pumping out these good talent as well.
They are, yeah. Congrats to Arnett. That was another big win for him. And yeah, he, I was talking to him about it, and he said he's sticking around there. Hopefully, he can, grab a short notice replacement fight with UFC or whatnot. But they do put on really good cards. They got some money out there and put on nice shows. And I think they got, I think Holloway, I think, is their champion at Bantamweight, I believe, right? So it'd be kind of cool to see if maybe 2 Canadians can get in there and fight for the UAE belt, right? So it'd be kind of interesting.
Yeah, as well, Charles Jourdain's brother fought on that card, but Jesse was the only Canadian to come through, actually, on Friday with his big decision victory. But, I mean, you know what? And UAE Warriors, apparently Dana White said they're going to get on Fight Pass, so even more exposure for that promotion for guys to get, some fights out there as well. But let's move it on, Josh, to the big one, the one everyone's really excited for. It's UFC 257. It's the first pay-per-view of 2021 with arguably the biggest name in the sport right now, Conor McGregor, Dustin Poirier, a rematch of their featherweight bout back in 2014. And man, has a lot changed in 6 years for both these guys. Both have experienced, career highs and career lows. I think this is going to be such a interesting match. Now, Conor in the countdown said he's going to finish the fight within 60 seconds, which I don't see how that happening at all. I think Poirier's grown so much, but you mentioned the point that you feel like Poirier is getting a little disrespected, and I would agree. Like, everyone's kind of just talking about Conor. But Poirier's been on one of the best runs of his career and is coming off like an arguably fight of the year candidate against Dan Hooker.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good fight. I'm excited for this. I really enjoy watching both guys fight. It is a lot has changed since the first fight. If I had to pick a winner, I'm going to go with McGregor. I think he'll do it again. And not to disrespect Poirier, I just think that stylistically, the way that they both fight, I think Poirier, I mean, his boxing, his striking it's gotten so much better, and it's world class. And he's shown his all around toughness, and he's beat some of the best, like what he did to Alvarez and Gaethje, and when the Hooker fight was amazing. So that guy's top level, and he's one of my favorite fighters to watch. I just think against a guy like McGregor, I just think his style, his pinpoint accuracy, is able to control and dictate the pace on the feet, and the distance control. He just and the way he just kind of avoids big shots, and I think he will catch Poirier, and I think he will finish him. I don't think it'll be in 60 seconds, though. I think it's going to take longer than that. But who I want to win, I like to see Poirier get the win. But I'm gonna, if I had to pick, put money down on it, I'd probably pick McGregor.
Wow, you see, I'm like one of the few that I think Poirier's winning this fight. I think Poirier's been at this stage before in his career a couple times. Like, he fought Khabib for the title, and he's fought McGregor before. But if he loses this, then he's really the MMA version of always a bridesmaid, never a bride. Like, you can't make it through to the other side of that big level. I think just that performance alone, like against Hooker, and then the Gaethje fights, like, he's been active against some of the best in the division, where Conor, sure, he looked fantastic against Cowboy Cerrone January of last year, but he's been off so long, and I'm sure he's been training and staying active. But Poirier's been staying active and training and had a fight, like went through the distance, and Poirier's grown so much where I think he's going to find a way to take and eat some of these shots and try to make it the fight he wants it to make. He said he wants it to be a blood and guts fight, and we really haven't seen Conor in a blood and guts fight since like the second Diaz fight, where he did get a little bloody and have to really show some resilience. But that's been, what, 2015, 16? Like, that's still a long time ago. And I think Poirier has matured enough, can push the pace, and find a way to, even if he gets down in the fight, find a way to counteract that and either win a decision or get like a late knockout or submission. Because I just think he needs this win, because, as you said, the promotional material seems it's all Conor. And I think he needs to, if he really wants to be the guy and, not really be used as the UFC's whipping boy, he needs this victory, and his back better be up against the wall.
Yeah, I don't think they use him as like the whipping boy, but like he's definitely, I mean, anybody that goes against McGregor kind of gets, the shade on them, right? He's the spotlight. He's their big money draw, right? So I can understand that. But hey, he's the interim champion, right? So with his only loss, well, not only loss, but his loss for the title to Khabib, who was, the best in that division, right? So he has been there at the top. He was the interim champion. He's beat guys, like I said, Gaethje, Hooker, Alvarez. He is literally in that top, 2, 3, 4 guys in the world for sure at that weight class. So, and I could see him, getting it into the little bit later round, after 60 seconds for sure. But yeah, I just see like, I see Conor not making it that blood brawl, because he's not going to do that. He'll sit back and wait, and he'll pick his shots, and I think he'll just kind of pick Poirier apart, not like badly. It's going to be a good fight, but I just see him getting the upper hand, and getting that TKO or KO finish. And also he has finished him once with a TKO. It was years ago, and they're totally different fighters now. But that does play maybe a little bit of a factor, going into it. I lost this guy. He finished me already. Where the mindset's at. I know Poirier is as tough as hell mentally, so I'm sure it's not gonna make or break him. But just you always wonder that going into a fight and how guys will react to that.
Well, when I say whipping boy, I mean not so much. I just feel like the UFC uses Poirier as like, oh, let's dangle this out here and get Dustin's hopes up, and then they pull the plug on him for someone bigger because they don't feel he has a name value or anything. When they disrespect like the blood and guts he shares in the cage for his career and the value of the UFC, and they kind of don't treat him that way as much. I just feel. But yeah, like, and I'm not disrespecting Conor. I think if Conor didn't have the hoopla about him, I think he'd get a lot more respect in the MMA community because he's
Yeah.
one of the best strikers out there. Like, his performance against Eddie Alvarez at UFC 205 is arguably up there as one of the best performances we'd ever seen.
Yeah.
But, you make the point, though, as well. This is a rematch. Sure, it's at 155 pounds instead of 145 pounds. But you've been in that rematch scenario, Josh. Like, what is the mindset going into the rematch where, if you're Dustin Poirier, like, things have to go differently, but you have to find a way to put the last fight in a way behind you?
Yeah, it's just, kind of like knowing that was, I remember many years ago, that was at 145 pounds. Now it's at 55, which I know some people don't understand that. It will make a big difference, I think, to both guys, to be honest. It'll be beneficial being at a higher weight class. And just, not dwelling on the past of what could happen again. You know what I mean? Like, there's fights. Anything can happen in a fight, right? I mean, you stack your chips up best you can and put all your weapons out there to maximize your chances to winning the fight. But any little wrong slip, wrong movement, a missed punch, not rolling underneath quick enough, like, all these little things can happen, and it could be the end of the fight for you. You know what I mean? So if you dwell on shit like that, then you're gonna start doubting yourself and kind of playing that mental warfare in your own mind and kind of go down that black hole. But I don't think Poirier is that kind of person. I think he's very, very mentally tough, strong-minded, has a good team behind him. He's experienced. These guys have been around the game for I don't know how long. So yeah, I don't think that'll be a factor. I think he'll come in there sharp, and look to implement his game plan. And it's just going to be who can implement their their styles and their game plan better and come out the victor.
Yeah, I think this one will be a really good fight. I think it'll exceed some expectations some people have, because a lot of people are feeling like Conor's just going to steamroll Dustin Poirier, where both guys have grown a lot, as we've said, both in their mixed martial arts careers and outside. Like, both are now fathers. I mean, that changes you a lot. Conor seems a lot more mature and, making some better decisions outside of the cage, which makes me happy because I think the sport and the fans want to see him do things in MMA or this Manny Pacquiao fight, whatever that may be. But nonetheless, a motivated Conor McGregor is a good thing for not only the UFC, but mixed martial arts as a whole. As we move on to the co-main event, which is another lightweight fight, but one I'm also really excited for. It's Dan Hooker, who, as you mentioned, just lost a Fight of the Year candidate against Dustin Poirier, taking on the debuting Michael Chandler, the former Bellator lightweight champion. And I mean, for Chandler, like, he had the dress rehearsal of how things go in Abu Dhabi as the backup for the Gaethje Khabib fight, but like, he's stepping in here against a real tough guy. And I'm shocked at a lot of people not picking Chandler as well. Like, I know it's tougher for these, like, what makes it so tough for these Bellator guys or someone from an outside organization to make the debut into the UFC? I know the competition's tougher, but like, Chandler's one of the most decorated athletes outside of the UFC.
Yeah, he is 100%. He's been one of the best lightweights in the world for forever. And guys, a lot of the UFC fans don't watch any other thing but that. They'll just turn it on when the UFC's on, and they don't see anything else, right? So, but the true MMA fans, I think, really know. He's been at the top, in that top three probably for the last, I don't know how many years, at least in my books anyway. And yeah, I think, well, you know what the UFC does when in these situations, right? Anytime there's a big name that comes from another big promotion that is competition, they're going to try and bury them, right? And that's what they want to do. And I think that's what they're trying to do. I think that's what they're trying to do stylistically in this fight too. As far as like marketing him, I think they did a good job of, like, they brought him in and they introduced him, and that's pretty cool. I like how they did that. But stylistically, I think this is a tough matchup for Chandler, and I'm a huge Chandler fan. I just think Hooker is one of those guys. He's hard to get out of there. His striking is top notch. His wrestling takedown defense is very, very good. He's very good everywhere, and I think against a shorter, stockier fighter like Chandler, he uses his range really well, especially with his knees up the middle, things like that. So, I mean, I'm hoping Chandler wins. I'm a huge Chandler fan, and I want to see him do well. But this definitely is a tough test for him. I think probably one of the most toughest in that top, four, stylistically, for him anyway.
It really feels like Chandler has to win, because some of these guys that have debuted from Bellator are like, sure, they got to win, but that wasn't against a tougher guy. And then when they brought the tougher competition up, like, you could have a career like Will Brooks, where you went pretty much washed out of the UFC, and struggling to even find your footprint in mixed martial arts, like a stint in the PFL and then, a stint of fighting in China and stuff like that. Like, I feel Chandler really has to win this fight to kind of put that wash of Bellator fighters debuting in the UFC, but Dan Hooker's no joke. Like, Dan Hooker went toe-to-toe with Poirier. He went toe-to-toe with Felder and won that fight. Plus, like, he's away from his family for almost a month. Like, the quarantine to get there, but, like, due to New Zealand's protocols, like, he can't come back to New Zealand till, like, February 23rd. So that's insane. Like, that gives you motivation. Like, I'm not going on this trip for no reason. Like, I'm going out there to get a win. And he throws with serious intentions to knock you out, and he throws, like, some serious good technical strikes. Like, that's what, to me, makes this matchup interesting. And, it's kind of like a mini tournament going on now, who may get the next lightweight title shot. But Dan Hooker, I always thought, was kind of a dark horse to get this Chandler fight. But if he wins, he really just validates, like, why the UFC picked him to go there.
Yeah, for sure. This would be, it'll be a bigger win for people that know how good Chandler is if he does get it. And the UFC will see that as well. But yeah, I think this is a fight that, Chandler will. I think it's very important. I mean, every fight's important that you win, right? But you want to get in this promotion. There's a lot of hype of you coming over and finally switching. You were the poster boy for Bellator for like 10 years. So coming to the UFC now, you don't want to, sink your first out there. You want to make a big impression, and I think I'm hoping he does. I don't know. I'm like going through in my mind. I can see some variations of how it could finish. You never know. It'd be interesting to see if he utilizes his wrestling more, because he's a hell of a wrestler, or if he's going to get like that knockout hungry and look for that knockout, which could lead him to danger against a guy like Hooker. So I like to see him get in there and implement his wrestling, at least early in the fight, and really wear Hooker down, and not just play shot for shot with him early on.
Yeah, I don't know if he wants to play shot for shot, because we just saw what Hooker can do playing shot for shot. Like, if he didn't fight Dustin Poirier, he would have probably finished an opponent with landing some of those shots in there. And we haven't really seen Chandler, we haven't seen him fight in a while, but like what he did against Benson Henderson in his last fight in Bellator is arguably one of the most impressive performances anyone's had against Benson Henderson, a former WEC and a former UFC lightweight champion. So I'll be interested to see. Like, I would assume he would try to implement that, Mizzou wrestling out there. But nonetheless, like, this is an interesting fight for lightweight. Like, this is right now the pinnacle of the lightweight division, and it's on Showcase at UFC 257.
Yeah, it'd be good to see. I mean, all four fights are I'm can't wait to tune into those four. They're really, really interesting. And like you said, it's kind of like a mini tournament with Oliveira kind of the fifth man there, and then Khabib kind of not knowing what's happening with him anyway. But yeah, it's all those two fights, man, are so exciting. I look forward to seeing it.
Yeah, I as well. I mean, there's some other good fights on the pay-per-view. I mean, Amanda Ribas at 115, like, she's kind of becoming a girl the UFC really likes. There's another good lightweight fight in Otman Azitar versus Matt the Steamroller Frivola to the second fight. And then, Joanne Calderwood, a girl that, lost her chance at fighting Valentina Shevchenko for the women's flyweight title, taking on and Jessica Ai, who fought Shevchenko for the flyweight title. And, kind of a crossroads fight, more so for Jessica Ai, but for Calderwood, a win, like a finish, would be great for her, but a win nonetheless puts her back in that mix at 125, because Shevchenko's starting to clean that division out.
Yeah, and she's somebody that she hasn't fought yet, right? So a win for her is, I mean, like I say, it's always important, right? But it would definitely propel her right back into that mix of top contenders, that she could actually get that shot back. I don't know if one win would get it back for her, but it would definitely put her that much closer. So, and a girl like Jessica Ai, she was a title contender, pretty big name in the division. So it would be a big win.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this pay-per-view is pretty much built on the co-main and main event, obviously, but I mean, this is the perfect way to go. I mean, watching the show actually on Saturday, like, there, as we said, these Abu Dhabi shows will have fans. How is it to hear fans again, Josh? Because, like, that heavyweight fight, the Justin Tafa heavyweight fight against Felipe, like, it maybe wouldn't have been received so well without fans, but the fans got into it. They were chanting Holloway's name. Like, it was so nice to hear fans in an MMA event for the first time since March.
Yeah, it kind of felt like somewhat of a normal world again,
Yeah.
where once upon a time we used to have that. So, yeah, I mean, that's cool. It's a good start. I'm glad to see it. I just want to see it happen more and more and get back to our, way of life that we once had.
Yeah, hopefully things can go back to that, and I'm more positive than ever about that being a thing by like early end of the spring slash end of the summer, I guess, because seems the plan for all these governments and whatnot, that everyone will be back to normal and vaccines will be out there and whatnot. But that's my plan, because especially the regional side, like they need fans more than anyone, because they can't make, they live off the live gate, and if you don't
Yeah.
have fans, it's kind of tough to put on these shows unless you get picked up on a major streaming platform service, but you can only get so much from them, right?
Yeah, it's the same thing with like the CFL, right? That's
Yeah.
the reason why their season didn't happen this year, just because they rely so much on their ticket, the gate, right? Because they have thousands and thousands of fans that come every game, and that's how they make most of their money, right? So, in the states and things like that, they have a little bit more lucrative income from the TV deals that they have and sponsors and things like that. So they're able to get away with it and still put shows on. But yeah, the regional scenes, man, they rely, majority of their money on ticket sales, and that's why this is so key to get back to normal, have fans again, because we need those shows running.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me started on the CFL and how that was handled. But
Yeah.
yeah, hopefully we can get things back to normal, fans and whatnot. And as we wind this episode down, Josh, definitely before I let the show go, I know we lost Paul Varlins, an OG of the pre like UFC SEG days. No holds barred fighting. Legend. Like really, he would be like, if MMA was as big as it is now back in like 1996, he'd be like a Cowboy Cerrone, like fought, all these big names in UFC and, outside of the UFC, and even did a little stint in ECW to help get Taz, the human suplex machine, over. It was really sad to hear about, like he contracted COVID a month ago or so, and then was put into a coma, and then unfortunately passed away from it. So rest in peace to the polar bear, Paul Varlins.
Yeah, that's horrible to hear, man. I do remember watching. I remember going and renting the VHS tapes of the UFC back in when I was like, I don't know, 8, something like that, 10. And I remember watching a couple. I remember the Polar Bear. I remember that name, and then yeah, he's been around the game for a long time, and a vet that helped build the sport. And that's very unfortunate. Sad to hear.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of these things, like the sport of MMA is only like 30 something years old, or just under 30, but not a lot of people know about Paul Varlin. So it's important for shows like this and others to remind people to go check out those days and those guys that laid the footprint for what MMA is today. And it's sad that a lot of people don't take their time to go look at the history of this sport, because the history of this sport is interesting, and without a history of a sport, you don't have a sport.
Yeah. It's like looking back at all those old names, like guys like Varlins and Marco Huas
Yeah.
and what's his name, Keith Hackney, and the guys like that kind of were the old school guys that went in there. And what's my dude from Niagara Falls?
Oh,
Oh,
Harold Howard.
Harold Howard, yeah, he was my favorite. Watching him, but yeah, the guys like that, just it's those are the guys that kind of started it, man, and it kind of stepped up, and it was more martial art versus martial art back then, but it kind of made the wave to mixed martial arts, right? So it's pretty cool.
And of course, we can't forget about Canadian legend, the Big Daddy, Gary Goodridge.
Gary Goodrich, yeah, of course, man. Gary's a legend. That guy's been around the game, and he's been there, done that.
Representing Barrie, Ontario. So shout out the people of Barrie. Shout out the Buffalo Bills, who will be in the AFC Championship game for the first time since 1993. I have a big feeling they will win this game and go to the Super Bowl. I'm not ready to get my heart broken again, but nonetheless, I'm very confident in the Bills. And now, before I let you go, Josh, if you want to plug anything, plug where people can vote to get your name in there, because Bellator's got you out there marketing. And I said you're trending well. Let's keep that trend going.
Yeah, sure. Keep it going. I don't follow trends or anything like that. I don't know how you do that, but that's pretty cool.
I've
You
just
just
seen a lot of Josh Hill names out
Oh
there.
yeah. Okay, cool. Well, yeah, on the Bellator Instagram and their Twitter and their Facebook, you can go there and they just kind of who we want to see next fight for the Bantamweight title. throw my name out there, that'd be great. The more eyes on me out there, the better, and then get in there and try to bring a title back to Canada.
Yeah, absolutely. We need some Canadian Bellator champions. And now that Rory McDonald's gone, we need you to represent the flag and
Oh yeah.
be our hero, our George St. Pierre, our Bret Hart.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. Big shoes to fill, but I'll try my best.
I mean, as you said, you're 2-0 right now. You're making the push. You keep on pushing, as they say. So, well, Josh, this was fun, and we'll get together once again, same bat time, same bat channel next week, and break down, all the madness of this past week, and look ahead to another week of mixed martial arts action and whatever happens in it, because there's always something going on in MMA.
Always look forward to it.
All right, Josh, thanks for your time again, and we'll see you same bat time, same bat channel next week.